ఈరోజు మనం బాబ్ స్మిత్ సెనేటర్ న్యూజెర్సీ సో ఎనర్జీ అండ్ ఎన్విరాన్మెంట్ కంట్రోల్ చైర్మన్ సో న్యూజెర్సీలో ప్రత్యేకంగా ప్రజెంట్ ఈ ఎనర్జీ ఎన్విరాన్మెంటల్ విషయంలో ఎటువంటి యాక్షన్స్ తీసుకుంటున్నారు, ఎటువంటి ఆలోచనలు చేస్తున్నారు. సో ఇప్పుడు రోజు మారుతున్న ఎస్పెషల్లీ ఎలక్ట్రికల్ చూసినట్లయితే సో పవర్ బిల్స్ అనేవి కూడా అనేకం ఇక్కడ చాలామంది మా ఇండియన్స్, ఏషియన్స్ ఇలా మల్టిపుల్ క్రౌడ్ అంతా కూడా మనకి న్యూజెర్సీ ప్రాంతాల్లో ఉన్నారు. సో వీళ్ళందరికీ కూడా చాలా ఇబ్బంది కలిగే పరిస్థితి ఉందనేది బయట మనకి ఇప్పుడు వినిపిస్తున్న పరిస్థితి. సో ఈ విషయంలో ఆయన ఎటువంటి నిర్ణయాలు తీసుకునే ప్రయత్నం చేస్తున్నారు. సో ఇక్కడ ఉండే ప్రధానంగా ఏవైతే ఎలక్ట్రిసిటీ కంపెనీస్ ఉన్నాయో ఆ బిగ్ కంపెనీస్ వాళ్ళు ఏ విధంగా ముందుకు వెళ్తున్నారు, వాటికి సంబంధించిన విశేషాలు ఆయన మాటలో మనం ఇప్పుడు తెలుసుకునే ప్రయత్నం చేద్దాం. Hello, Bob Smith. I'm from Sakshi Television, and nice meeting you, sir. First of all, how are you?
I am happy and healthy, and it's very nice to meet you as well.
And tell me about right now, like the situation is how is going about the energy policy and what you're planning, and you're the chairman. So, what are the new things coming to the state?
In addition to the new things coming to the state, which I'll address, I think it's very important for your viewers to know how serious the problem is. So, according to NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, the year 2024, last year, was the warmest year on record in human history. 2023 previously held the record for the hottest year in the history of humanity. And I'll make a bet with any of your listeners. I'll give them odds that 2025 is now going to be the new record holder with the new hottest year in the history of humanity. And this, I believe, is pretty much due to global climate change. We have abused the atmosphere of our planet by putting in gazillions of tons of carbon dioxide and methane in the atmosphere. And it's causing the planet to warm up like a greenhouse. So we've got to do something about it. A couple more facts. Global sea level has risen by more than 7 inches since the early 20th century. New Jersey, our average annual temperature has increased by more than 4 degrees Fahrenheit since 1900. And forest fires are out of control. I mean, turn on your TV and you can watch California burning down periodically. The last set of fires being humongous. Last year we had flooding and wildfires in the European zone, and it's scary. You look around you; it's really scary. We have to get serious about global climate change and doing things that will change our fuel mixes. We need to do more and more renewables and get carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. So the number in 2023 was that 47,000 citizens of the European Union died from heat-related illnesses. All right, and by the way, I understand that temperatures in India are out of control as well. Getting very, very high for everybody. Central Europe at the moment is recovering from all the floods that occurred. California, when you look at the ashes, you know that billions and billions of dollars are going to be needed. And if you still don't believe in global climate change, I'd ask you to take a look at your insurance premiums, both for your homeowner's insurance, your auto insurance, all going up because of these, you might want to call them natural disasters, but they're basically self-induced, brought-on disasters because of our energy policies. Those premiums are going through the roof. I know because I just paid my premium, and it's pretty bad. Yeah. So you also have to worry about the loss, not just the loss of property, but the loss of people. In 2021, Hurricane Ida killed 32 New Jersey citizens. And it happened because 9 inches of rain dropped in areas in New Jersey where they've never experienced that kind of rainfall. And unfortunately, flooding issues are only getting bigger in New Jersey. So one of the things we did in response to that was to pass a stormwater utility law. In the United States of America, we have more than 1,800 stormwater utilities. And what they do is collect a small vigorish, a little money, from properties that have huge parking lots. And they take that money and they devote it to infrastructure fix-ups so that we can handle the stormwater. We passed that law in 2019, and I'm ashamed to say that only 2 New Jersey towns have stormwater utilities. One's the city of New Brunswick, and the other is Maplewood Township. But if you want to do something good for your town in New Jersey or anywhere, see if they can set up a stormwater utility so we start to address the stormwater problems. All right? So that's a word that we'd like to pass along to everybody. I also think we have to put money in the bank for the catastrophes that are coming. And when they come and you say, what do I do now? That's a problem. You need to be prepared. So I have legislation to require that we put together catastrophic relief funds. And this will be to rebuild the churches, the schools, the fire companies, police stations, so that you can continue to get the essential services for modern life. So we need to put money away for that. So in a nutshell, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. So what can we do to have a chance to survive? And the answer to that in New Jersey and really the whole world, we need to reduce our carbon and methane footprints drastically. And we can do that through electrification and decarbonization. So we need more clean and renewable source of electricity. And I'm sure people are aware that the way electricity gets around the world or around the country, in the case of the United States, is through what's called the grid. And the grid are the wires, the connections between all the utilities, not just in-state but out-of-state. We have a grid that's more than 100 years old and it's in bad shape. It's held together with bobby pins and chewing gum.
New Jersey state government it's encouraging green energy, solar energy. So how it's work and to keep the cost stable.
Big news? Solar is cheaper than combined gas plants. All right, or much cheaper than nuclear. In the case of nuclear, talk about 10 years to get a new plant of any kind, even a small modular reactor. In the case of combined cycle gas plants, you're talking 3 to 5 years. In the case of solar, grid scale solar, you can build it in 2 years. So I think one of the things, and it's a terrible way to make good things happen, but the laws of capitalism say you want to get the best result for the cheapest cost. Solar right now is an electric generator bargain. So I see much more solar in our future. The problem is they can't connect to the grid. There's 79 generation projects in front of PJM. All right, now part of the reason they won't approve it is the grid doesn't work. All right. When an interconnection is proposed, so it's going to take a while. Right now the cause of the energy spike, the cost of rates, is due to the generators predicting that there's going to be a huge demand for more electricity from artificial intelligence data centers, which consume unbelievable quantities of electricity. So, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So we have other legislation. We have a constitutional amendment. It's not adopted yet, but I believe it will be, that says that when fossil plants retire, you got to replace them with renewable sources. You can't put in another coal plant or another gas plant. You got to go to the renewables. And by doing that, you allow the plant to go to the end of its useful life, roughly about 20 years, and then you have to replace it with renewable. And in a lot of cases, that's already happening because, like I said, solar's now pretty cheap. So it becomes easier for a generator to get into that business, with the exception of PJM, which is not allowing interconnections.
What do you suggest, if it is solar cheaper, who can able to go with solar independently? So is that best choice, or what do you say?
Again, you got to look at what the rules are. The rules, if you do a grid scale solar, you can only do it in certain places. And secondly, you have to be able to interconnect to the grid in order to get it on the market for sale. All right, so the grid is the
It is
thing that is really holding it up. So a terrible auction earlier in the year, which I'll tell you about again in a section in a minute. But there's another piece of legislation I want to bring to your attention, and that's so that when those utilities and/or generators who knew about this problem, known for years, for decades, and never would fess up about it or bring it to the public's attention, that they would provide money to help fix the damages. And the damages, if you ask us to put together a list of $1 billion in damages already having happened in New Jersey, we could give that to you. But as the earth gets warmer and warmer, more and more of this damage is going to happen. You need to start putting money aside to take care of the problems. So it's currently in federal court, the Global Superfund, but we also, Global Climate Superfund. But in New Jersey, if you set this up, you're ready when the courts make their final decision, as opposed to the court making a decision and then you have to start from scratch and figure out how you're going to administer these relief funds. So we'd like to get the Global Superfund legislation done as well, the climate change Superfund. We need in New Jersey, one of the things that would have been like a major solution to the problem was offshore wind. And then we had COVID, we had supply chain problems, we now have an administration in Washington that hates renewables. So they pulled the plug, terrible pun, they pulled the plug on renewable projects. Offshore wind is getting beaten up. And just for the record, offshore wind has no negligible effect on whales. That is a baloney story put out by maybe the Koch brothers or the anti-renewable people. Mm-hmm. What creates problems for whales? Two things. Number one, we need a speed limit on a good portion of our waters because you get these huge boats going at fast speeds, and that does kill whales. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing we have to be aware of is that the currents in the ocean have changed, and now the food source for whales has come in more inshore. So whales, don't let that be a concern about getting more offshore wind done. And there's all kinds of valid scientific studies to show that. But we need a good speed limit and a little more care. Offshore wind could be a major source of renewable energy for our state, and we can't harness it soon enough. We also may have to relook at nuclear power. If you want to build a nuclear power plant, you're talking 10 plus years. Mm-hmm. They now have, it's being technologically developed for what are called SMRs, small modular reactors, mm-hmm. which hopefully can be built in a smaller time frame. And you could build them on the sites where you already have nuclear power plants and supplement the energy that comes out of it. And the basic problem here is we don't have enough energy. We're a state that imports, and now with this threat of the data centers, the AI data centers, it's going to cause a tremendous spike in rates roughly in July of this year, mm-hmm. 2025. Mm-hmm. We're trying to find ways to ameliorate the impacts. One of the things that people generally don't think of as a resource, we have hundreds of millions of square feet of warehouse roofs in New Jersey. Could you imagine if they were all filled with solar panels? Mm-hmm. Not only providing the energy they need, but also exporting it in the grid if we had a grid that would work. Mm-hmm. Right now, the law in New Jersey is that if you build a new warehouse, you have to pre-wire your roof for at least 40% solar. And you're also required to put in charging stations. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine the day when the trucks that come from warehouses are all electric? No more fumes, odors. It would be electrically based. So there's a lot of things that we can do to ameliorate the problem. That would be one of them. But again, we need a grid that works. So, and lastly, I'll mention before I go into that rate problem, we are now in New Jersey the pioneers of what's called dual use farming. And we've had Rutgers studying it for 3 years. We authorized the study, and it's proved that dual-use solar on farms works. The big surprise, you're not talking about panels. Mm-hmm. not panels that go over the land. You're talking about panels on the fences. They are terrific gatherers of solar energy, and they don't stop any of the farming that occurs on the land. So not only are they farming vegetables or hay or soybeans or whatever, or cattle, but they're harvesting electrons, which will help will be a new point of generation in the state. Rutgers is publishing best practices, and they're working closely with the farming community, so we're expecting some really good results there. But it's in the queue.
So now, like the biggest challenges right now, the prices and global warming, day to day, it's increasing the temperature. So, how you are taking a challenge to keep this in a right path, and the prices, if it is increased, it's going to be a big challenge for the public and as well as the government. So what you are planning, especially these big companies who are handling this electricity.
Yep.
So how you are working with them and how to keep it in a parallel way, not to increase.
The single biggest source of the problem is PJM, the interstate organization.
Okay.
So we're demanding reform of PJM. What reforms are needed? Number one, they need to put all the energy sources in the auction. They arbitrarily eliminated some sources, mainly renewables, and as a result, and secondarily, not approving interconnections. So as a result, we have not had an increase in the amount of renewable electricity that could easily be available in the grid. We in New Jersey have 79 projects in a long line that they won't even look at. If a portion of them had been approved, we wouldn't be in the problem. We would have many new kilowatt hours of electricity available to us. So number one on the list is reform PJM. Reform which energy sources they consider. And the other thing that everybody should know is that in our view, or my view, because I don't want to give it to anybody else, I think the auction is corrupt. Now, not corrupt in the sense that somebody's taking money and taking a trip to wherever, but corrupt in the sense that they're not doing it properly. And the organization is prejudiced. And the prejudice is in favor of fossil fuels. That's a problem. So fossil fuel projects are not getting approved. They're not working hard for the interconnection to the grid. And as a consequence, we now are in a situation where we're short.
It should come into the assembly and you're supposed to discuss, because that's the end of the day, public will suffer with if anything went wrong. Right. If you're increasing prices like 10-20%, towards the public will suffer, as well as the government will suffer with the public issues. So that's important to address. So how you're going to?
So what are people going to flip on?
Yes.
Their air conditioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so that's like the other side of the problem. So anyway, we've demanded the reform of PJM. They've agreed to a partial reform, which is that these factors that should go into the bidding are going to be considered next year. But what about this year? All right, we're stuck with these prices from July to the following June. So one of the things, it's not a solution, but one of the things I think we're going to do is to provide rate relief to customers so that we will help them either by paying part of their bill or reimbursing them for the extra costs. And it's not a preferred solution. The preferred solution was to not have the problem in the first place. And PJM is the entity that's supposed to be planning for the future so you don't get these rate spikes. Right? This rate spike is going to be horrible. I mean, you're going to hear from a lot of mad people in July of this year. So we're going to try and give them help on the payment side. We're demanding reforms of PJM. Listen, I'm wild enough to suggest maybe we should consider a different state group.
Yes.
All right? Because these guys are clearly not working in our best interest. And then one other thing, the claim after the auction occurred, you had all the energy reporters contacting the generators to say, why did you all put in a 10 times higher bid. Now, that's pretty strange because up until last year, the bidding system worked. All of a sudden, everybody got the same memo. Let's raise our bid by 10%. By a factor of 10 times. Okay. And then the price is huge. So the question is, was there some collusion? And we are asking for an investigation of PJM on that issue because renewables will always get hurt. The other thing that's also true is that the fossil fuel gang is pretty much in charge of PJM. So that may be a reason why they wouldn't allow the renewable projects to go forward. So there's a lot we need to fix.
Yeah. The government have responsible towards the public. The same thing, PJM, like any other electrical company, they should also have come forward and they should feel it's their responsibility too. What do you say?
Say absolutely. You're absolutely right about it. The government is supposed to be helping people to live better, a higher quality of life. One of the other things we're considering is legislation that would say that AI data centers, you're welcome to come to New Jersey, but bring your own electric supply.
Okay.
All right, because that's what's killing us. That demand, that potential demand for electricity, the bidders say, "Oh, we only did it because we know AI is coming in." And by the way, if they don't come in, you don't get a refund. All right, so it was kind of in their best interest to bid high because they're going to get more money whether AI happens or not. And I think there's a good economic benefit that can come from AI, but not if they're making all of us ratepayers pay for it. You know, that's not fair, right? And you're talking $14 billion. So I don't think it should be on us. I think it should be on them. And by the way, if they do a location in New Jersey, all they have to do is locate their energy supply there, either the solar or the wind or whatever, biofuels. A lot of ways that you can produce electricity. But the bottom line is we shouldn't be paying for it. It's a preemptive rate increase on facilities that aren't there yet and may never be there.
Say to the public in the summer, the heat, the temperature is going to be like every time it's record-breaking temperatures. So how you address the public in New Jersey?
I told you we're going to try to have some relief, monetary relief for it. But it's awful. And one of the things the government can't control is the rate of increase in temperature on the planet. I mean, we're going to be suffering through that. But don't be surprised that in very hot areas, I don't know if you've ever been out west, but in some of the cities during the summer, they set up cooling stations so people can cool off. This heat can actually kill you. I mean, it's serious stuff. I don't know if it's going to have to go that far. But I can tell you in the New Jersey Senate Environment and Energy Committee, we're going to be doing everything we can to help people out because we know it's going to be a struggle. I would ask that you inform yourself about the real reasons for this rate increase. Because what's going to happen, I think, there's an election in New Jersey. There's always an election, but this year, half of the state government is up for election. The problem, our BPU didn't screw it up. Our energy policy didn't screw it up. What screwed it up was PJM not permitting these extra 79 projects to go forward, or any portion of them. And then also not allowing it in the rest of the states. I mean, they've been an equal opportunity failure. They have not been good for anybody. And then right now we have 2 to 3 states that do have AI data centers. We need to change the rules. The AI data centers need to bring their own electricity. You may have read about the Microsoft plan in 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania. That's a solution. You bring your own energy supply, and then you're not impacting everybody else's rates. Got to see more of that.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్. ఇటు ఒకవైపు సమ్మర్ ఎవ్రీ ఇయర్ కూడా హీట్ పెరుగుతూ ఉంది, గ్లోబలైజేషన్ కారణంగా కావచ్చు. సో ఒక ఎన్విరాన్మెంటల్ అండ్ ఎనర్జీ మినిస్టర్గా హీ ఈజ్ వరీడ్ అబౌట్ ద పబ్లిక్, న్యూ జెర్సీ స్టేట్ ఎస్పెషల్లీ. సో పీజేఎం లాంటి కంపెనీస్ వాళ్ళు ఈ రేట్స్ అనేవి రివైజ్ చేసి లేదా పెరగకుండా ఎలా చూడాలనే సమయంలో వీటిని కేవలం ఒక కంపెనీగా పబ్లిక్ పాలసీని ఇంట్రెస్ట్ అనే కాకుండా ప్రాఫిట్స్ బేసిస్లో వెళ్ళేటప్పుడు ఖచ్చితంగా దాని ప్రభావం అనేది పబ్లిక్ పైన పడుతుంది. కనీసం 10 to 20% రేట్స్ అనేవి ఇంక్రీజ్ అయ్యే పరిస్థితి ఉంటుంది. అదే కాకుండా ఇలాంటి కంపెనీస్ వచ్చేటప్పుడు ఆ ఎనర్జీ భారం కూడా స్టేట్ పబ్లిక్ మీద పడేటప్పుడు పబ్లిక్ ఎందుకు పే చేయాలి ఆ మనీ అనేది కూడా ఇక్కడ ఒక డిబేటబుల్ పాయింట్ ఉంది. సో ముఖ్యంగా ఓవరాల్గా చూసినట్లయితే ఏ కంపెనీ అయినా ఇఫ్ దే ఆర్ కమింగ్ విత్ దర్ ఓన్ ఎనర్జీ సోర్స్, సో దట్ విల్ బి బెటర్ ఫర్ ద పబ్లిక్, స్టేట్ పబ్లిక్ ఎస్పెషల్లీ. ఈ వేరియస్ సిచ్యువేషన్స్ ఉన్నాయి, వీటన్నిటివి కూడా డిబేటబుల్ పాయింట్స్ ఉన్నాయి. పబ్లిక్ మీద మనం రుద్దినట్టుగా ఉంటుంది. సో పబ్లిక్ని ఇక్కడ ఇబ్బంది పెట్టి ప్రైసెస్ని పెంచే పరిస్థితి ఏర్పడి పెద్ద కంపెనీస్ లబ్ధి చేకూర్చడం అని అంటే ఒక విధంగా అది మనీని లూటీ చేసే పరిస్థితే కనిపిస్తుందేమో అని ఆయన మాటల్లో మనం వ్యక్తపరచడం చాలా క్లియర్గా స్పష్టంగా చూసాం. దిస్ ఇస్ సింహ, సాక్షి, న్యూజెర్సీ, USA.